A century of Transylvanian tranquility is about to come to a shocking end. Once again, the mortifying screams of helpless villagers shake the ground as they huddle against new nightmarish horrors unleashed by the Duke of Darkness, Count Dracula. And this time, he has a tombstone with your name on it, Simon Belmont. You must descend into Castle of the Undead and its gruesome ground, accompanied by the most chilling sound effects to ever tingle your spine. Inside, a freshly dug 11 levels maze features the treacherous Terrace of Terror, the dangerous rotating dungeon, the sunken ruins of lost spirits, torture chambers, and creature-filled caves. Use your whip like a grappling hook and swing past hundreds of traps and a host of ghost freaks, living corpses, and hidden goblins, all while dodging or destroying the unpredictable spitting lizards, carnivorous coffins, and more. Find the concealed weapons needed to defeat everything from eerie phantoms to haunted furniture. Then prepare to find yourself face to thing with hideous torments like the Tongue Lasher, the Darkest Night, the Bonafide Horseman, and the Granite Crusher. When your nerves get shot, use your password and take a breather. But forge on, Simon Belmont, because if you thought Dracula was down for the count, he's only just begun to fright. And Super Castlevania 4 from Konami, 1991. Oddly enough, we just did kind of like Capcom's version of this. You know what I'm saying? This game and Super Ghouls and Goblins are very samey to me. In a lot of ways, gameplay a little bit, look and feel a little bit. I don't really have a better way to explain it. Just kind of, they just work, man. They fit together really well. As a pair of games that you could go from one to the other, this is a good set, I think. And boy, that back of that box, how about that, huh? One thing I will say before we get into some of the development and history of this, I think that this game has one of the best stage ones in all of video games. It is great at setting up mood, setting up feel. It introduces you to almost every mechanic that you're going to run into in the game. The graphics are really good. The music is really good. It's not incredibly difficult, but it does give you a little bit of challenge for a first-time player. So, let's get into the history. Let's see. Konami has been re-released multiple times on the Super NES Classic. Expanded play controls, 16-bit graphics with Mode 7, soundtrack featuring brand new pieces and arrangements based on previous Castlevania music. Following the same setting in Castlevania on the NES, it takes place in 1691 Transylvania, where the vampire hunter Simon Belmont must defeat Dracula. It received critical acclaim, with some calling it one of the greatest video games of all time. I don't know if I would personally go that far. As a Castlevania game, side-scrolling Castlevania game, it is, I think, a little easy than most of the others, and mostly the game is really good about giving you the sub-weapon you need when you need it. Does that make sense? Sure it does. It was directed by Masahiro Uneo, who's credited in the game as Jun Furano since Konami did not allow the use of real names at the time. He was also the main programmer. His first 16-bit game, his team possibly started development on it during 1989. Uneo liked the original Castlevania for the NES the most and wanted to make a pure action game that was similar to it. Uneo only considers Super Castlevania 4 a remake of the original to some extent. Many features were introduced to make it a less frustrating game, such as giving players control of Simon as he walked upstairs. Due to the team being small, everyone was involved with the design, and some ideas came from the creative artists and others by programmers' experiments. The team drew maps on paper, and a lot was changed as the game was worked on. Mitsuru Yada, credited as Yaipon, programmed Simon and also implemented the game's whip system, which was to introduce some new gameplay that was not possible on the NES. As the enemy and boss programmer, Uneo conceived some rough ideas, and additional programmers would implement more detailed boss patterns. Earlier bosses were designed to be easier so that players could discover weak points and effective weapons without retrying. Uneo also worked on both the Japanese and English versions of the game, which the latter featuring some instances of censorship, such as being asked to alter the color palette in the English version to remove some depictions of blood in Stage 8. The packaging work for the North American and European game was created by Tom Dubois, who also designed the packaging for many other Konami titles outside Japan. It was released in Japan on October 31st, 1991 for the Super Famicom, and North America in December of the same year. The game sold a little over 500,000 copies worldwide. Factor 5 created a short demo of the game running on the Mega Drive and presented it to Konami. Konami was impressed, but ultimately chose to keep all Mega Drive development in-house and did not pursue porting the game to the system. It has been re-released on several platforms, such as the Virtual Console and the Wii U and the 3DS, and in September 2017 it was included in Nintendo's Super NES Classic. The music was composed by Masanori Adachi and Taro Kudo. Uneo wanted to make the environment of Super Castlevania 4 more interactive and was proud of how the game's sound effects and music contributed to the atmosphere. It was released on a compilation with Castlevania The Adventure and Belmont's Revenge music. The game's music was released on vinyl by Mondo in June 21st, 2017. Its reception, it was acclaimed by critics. Nintendo Power gave the game 4 overall scores of 4, 4, 4.5, and 4.5 out of 5. Among several items, the magazine cited the game's graphics, music, and action sequences as positives. In '94, the game was reviewed by Sandy Peterson in Dragon issue 209, Eye of the Monitor column. Pardon me. Peterson gave the game 3 out of 5 stars. In '92, Entertainment Weekly gave the game an A+ and wrote that vampire noir, dark, earthy colors, ominous, almost subtle sound effects, and when your hero swings from chandeliers or dispatches monsters with his iron flail, a spine-tingling sense of impending doom. Super Castlevania 4 has been praised in retrospective reviews as well. It was named by Nintendo Power in the 2006 issue as the 66th best game made on a Nintendo system. It has been ranked 27 according to the last issue. Official Nintendo Magazine placed the game at 70 on their list of 100 best Nintendo games ever. Game Informer's review opined that it perfected the classic formula due to its whip and less stiff gameplay. It also praised its use of Mode 7. In a review for the Wii U's eShop, Nintendo Life wrote, unlike many other 16-bit platforms of the era, the game has a mature and distinguished feel to it. Several publications have lauded it as one of the greatest video games of all time. It is a great game. Is it one of the best of all time? I don't know. You're talking to a guy who prefers the adventure Castlevanias more.